Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
A fabulous free kick from Leighton Baines. Dawson, oh, what a finish from Glenn Dawson, it's 2-0. It's scored by Tim Cahill in injury time for Everton. Matheson, the 16-year-old, to Wilbraham, the 40-year-old. Stunning from James Rodriguez. And here into Henderson! And Ian Henderson, right on half-time.
Hello, and welcome to episode 21 of the Men in Blue podcast. We are joined today from Darwin to talk about the evolution of Rochdale's season. It is Greg Ingham. Hello, Greg.
How you doing, folks? Okay? Yeah, all good. 1-0 win at the weekend, so perfect result. I'm good. All good.
And Everton won, so that's making him slightly less depressed, which, see what I did there, is always good. It's Matt Driver, the only person I can call my brother, of course.
You can, yeah, you certainly can. Yeah, I watched Match Today on Saturday, which was a first for seemingly quite a while.
You know what? I have to say Match Today
nice.
has gone down in production value. I'm not as keen on the programme anymore. It's been a long time since I've seen it. It wasn't great.
Is that what it is? Not the fact that we haven't won a game seemingly in about 9 months.
Maybe
it
that
feels
as well.
like.
Maybe that as well. And of course, our special guest, he's back again. Oh man, all the way from the Middle East. We must catch up again. It is Danny Richardson, Rochdale fan. How you doing, Danny?
I'm alright, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. We always seem to be having a bad season when you get me on, so today's no different, really.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it is Rochdale. But in all seriousness, lads, you won at the weekend. It's all looking good. So moving on with Rochdale. I've got 10 points clear, 5 games to go. Are you safe is the big elephant-sized question in the room. What do you reckon, lads?
I'd say about 75% safe, probably. Because anything can happen. Like, if you take the past 2-3 weeks away, I'd have said, yeah, we're still in it. So it's I know it's 2 wins and 1 draw and what have you, but I still think we could easily cock it up. Like we've been very inconsistent all season, so it could still happen. But I appreciate it's 10 points clear, so it's a slim chance.
I think the next 2 games are pretty crucial. I would say that we're probably, I'd agree, yeah, I think we're probably pretty much safe, but the next 2 games are fairly winnable, especially Stevenage on paper. And then we've got a remaining 3 and they're all in the top half, so it's kind of like we've put ourselves in a good position. We've got teams that are beatable coming up, so even if we're not, we've got a good chance of kind of wrapping it up and then sort of expecting not to get anything from the last 3, so that's where we are, I'd say.
Yeah, I've been looking at your fixtures. You've got Steve Evans Stevenage, sort of the Arsene Wenger's Arsenal of League 2, coming up, which is always fun in games whenever he's on the touchline. Then Hartlepool home, and then your last 3 are playoff chasers or promotion chasers, Exeter, Bristol Rovers and Newport, which is pretty brutal. How many points, A, do you think you'll need to be confident of staying up, and B, you think you're actually going to get out of those final 5 games?
I'm not particularly sure what the magic number is, like, for staying up. You know, there's like usually a number where that's the number you're safe usually. I don't know what it is this year. And I've not known what it is for the past 2-3 years. So I still think it's going to be difficult because every time that I look at a team on paper and go, oh, we should be beating them, we never do. Like, very rarely. I mean, maybe Scunthorpe a few weeks ago, like, yeah, we beat them. And that was probably, we should have done, you know, one of those.
To be fair, Greg, I think the 4 of us could beat Scunthorpe at the moment.
Probably. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to predict any of it, to be honest, because on paper, really, like Stevenage aren't doing particularly well. We should be beating them. But past few seasons, like teams around us, we've never been able to beat, like Wimbledon when we're in League One, I think Shrewsbury might have been a bit of a tough one, or MK Dons, something like that. Historically, we don't do well with teams around us in the past 3 years, so I can't predict what we're going to get, really. I don't know about Danny.
I mean, I'd say in terms of a number, I think 50 is generally kind of where you'd want to be. We're not. I think, are we on 47 now? So we're not far off that. And then you're looking at perhaps beating Stevenage, but like Greg says, I think our record against the teams around us has never been good, whereas kind of it wouldn't be out of the realms of our sort of reaches to scrape a win away at Newport on the last day, for example. We may or may not be safe by then, but I mean, the idea of getting points off teams we're not expected to get points from, and then vice versa against teams around us. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'd expect us to probably beat Stevenage, to be honest with you, and then kind of sort of maybe pick up a couple of bonus wins on the run-in, just kind of where you probably wouldn't expect us to do so, but with the pressure off, I guess, and a few other things, I think the season will probably pan out like that.
I believe Stevenage are missing their main centre forward for the game against Dale coming up, which can always be a huge help for you guys, especially when you are now getting more of a self-defence, because of course you beat Pete Waterman, Motorway Merchants Walsall 1-0 the other day. That's a bit of a deep dive into that and the 3 points that has arguably maybe completely saved your season. So how do we feel about the game? Deserved win? Any thoughts on that, lads?
We were better. We had a lot more energy. I think we were really good sort of in an attacking sense and quite solid defensively, but Walsall were pretty dire, to be fair. I think O'Connell was in the team of the week, and I can't remember him being kind of spectacular. So a lot of good, kind of more energy up front, a lot more intensity than we've been used to, which is good. Cashman's come back into the side recently, and he offers quite a lot of running. He's kind of taken up the Jake Beasley role in a sense. He runs his socks off, and he's posted a few tweets out since after games and stuff, said that he's blowing and stuff, and just like with like the exhausted emojis and stuff. So a lot of energy. I think we're still a bit. And we probably could have scored a few more in the game, to be fair. I think we probably could have scored 3 or 4. We had some really, really good chances, especially in the first half. We still tend to drop off. I was complaining that our style seems to be that we'll press for a little bit, but not really, except in these recent games. But mostly would be very defensive, try and be solid, and we hoof it long to the forwards quite a lot, which it doesn't make for very attractive viewing, and it doesn't work either. Like we haven't really got, since Beasley left, we haven't really got that outlet to do that, and it tends to come back, and then the games are quite turgid. Like I say, recently they've had a bit more energy to them, perhaps with the influence of Cashman and Charman finding his feet a little bit too. But yeah, I mean, it was a good win. I don't think Walsall ever really looked like scoring. I can't remember Lynch having a save to do, but I still think it wasn't perfect, and I think some of our fans were very, very happy with it, and I wouldn't be in that camp. I think there was elements of kind of our problems this season, i.e. not a real game plan and kind of a lot of hoofball and not really any kind of distinct sort of patterns of play. You look at us and you don't really see, apart from us hoofing it with one of the centre backs to someone up front quite aimlessly most of the time, we don't really seem to have a style of play. So yeah.
I agree with all of that pretty much, but it's basically Stockdale doesn't usually have like a plan B, and he doesn't usually play I don't think he's played much of the youth team, if any. So there's always like a bit of don't know. He's sort of that gets called up on Twitter a little bit, and he's sort of one-dimensional with plans and tactics and things like that a little bit. And I know what Danny's on about in terms of we don't particularly have like a sort of style. So like even under BBM, we had something that was a sort of signature that was sort of trying to play out from the back at least. And then like with Hilly, it was something else and things like that. But I don't really know. I still don't really know what we are as a starting 11 in terms of like if I were to go to the game, I don't know what there would be, tactically they'd be trying to do, like identity wise or things like that. Which like it comes to the end of the season now, and like fans are still trying to figure out what are we, in terms of we don't play out from the back, what do we do? And obviously Danny's on about hoofing it up to the front man. We were doing that to Campbell at one point, I think beginning of the year, but that weren't particularly working. It sort of was working, then it wasn't. But as you say, it's not really attractive football. But I mean, I know like people say he's had this to do, he's only had 3 weeks to put a squad together and things like that. But by the time in like 2-3 months, that'll be like a year in terms of a full circle. It nearly would have been here a year. So like, I don't know how long you can keep, fans can keep saying that. Like he only had 3 weeks because he's had 2 transfer windows. He'll have another one in June, pre-season, things like that. So you can't always put the excuses up, if that makes sense. You can't always say, we've had problems, because those problems, like in a few months, will be like a year away and things like that. But I can see, it's like we run about the previous podcast episodes about the quality isn't that great in League Two, but some teams are still difficult to break down, even though they don't play football. But maybe that's what it is, because they don't play football, they're difficult to break down. I don't know, but I've seen some teams like, even when we were playing Scunthorpe, that yes, we were trying to get it past them and things like that, but it took us a while to get that goal. And there's a few teams in League Two like that, but that's where we are at the moment.
Do you not think, though, when you look at the style of play, that Robbie Stockdale could be sort of like a Roch Valley Simeone, a Stockione, if you will, in that he sort of sets up his teams to prepare for the way the opposition play, rather than having a set style himself. Like for example, using Atletico Madrid as to follow the analogy, you watch some La Liga game against, say, Cadiz or Getafe at home, they will play on the front foot, they'll be very attacking, they'll be quite free-flowing, quite attractive, yet when they go and play Man City away in the Champions League, it'll be a very different story because of the nature of the game, because of their opponents. Do you not think that maybe, with it being Stockdale's first real foray into full-time management as well, and with the limitations he's had for building a squad, do you think sometimes he does his research and his homework on the opponents and goes, right, we'll set up a different style game to game because of who you're playing? Or do you think it's just because he hasn't quite found a system that works yet with the players he's got?
I don't. No, I don't. I wouldn't give him that much credibility tactically, to be honest with you. I think we set up. I think to kind of extend on that, I think we're more like City or Liverpool in that, like, not that we're good, but that we play the same way against everyone. Like I don't think he has the flexibility. I mean, at times, like, for example, here's an example. We started the season saying he said all pre-season, we're going to play 4-3-3, like Mike Bassett. And he was like, 4-3, it'll be 4-3-3. We did the pre-season 4-3-3. We lined up against Harrogate, 4-3-3. I think we were 2-0 down in like 20 minutes, was it? Something like that. It was similar anyway. Then he was like, okay, now we're playing 3-4-3. And he's played that for the rest of the season. And he's moved back to this 4-3-3 once or twice. But I think it's more to do with injuries. So like in terms of him finding his feet as a manager and stuff like that. I mean, the squad's his. He's had the 2 windows, like Greg said. I think he's had the time and the money from the board. The board have publicly backed him even when a lot of the fans weren't. I think he's had, and also there's a big switch from how BBM played to how Robbie Stockdale likes us to play. So that's coaching. Those players aren't doing what they used to do on the BBM. They're not dribbling it on the byline. They're not, they're not camped right in the 6-yard box trying to play neat little passes out. They're hoofing it up the field. So they've been coached to do that. They've been they're playing a completely different way. So, the argument about him not having time with the team and kind of the squad not being his and he's not really had a proper window. Well, he's had quite a lot of money to spend, and he's obviously had time to work with the players on the training ground because they're playing a completely different style of play. So you can't have your cake and eat it. If he's had time to change the style of play, and he distinctly has. And I think that he's also recruited players that fit within that style of play. So again, he's got a clear way that he wants to play, which for me isn't how he should be approaching a football game. But that's maybe a stylistic preference. In terms of the Atletico Madrid reference, like we're not dirty enough for that. Like we don't commit fouls. Like we've not had a red card. I think we're like the second lowest yellow cards. Like we don't get in people's faces much. So I was saying that in the recent games we have been doing things like that, and we do look a little bit more intense without the ball and a little bit more aggressive without the ball. But in general, that's just not how we play. Like we're prepared to just let the other team have it, and mostly to our detriment.
It's like historically we've had players that get stuck in really, like obviously Gary Jones, Perkins, Jason Kennedy. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but historically we've always had that sort of our midfielder who just gets stuck in before the defence. And then we've had, like, now and again, we've had solid defenders years ago, like Wayne Evans and Gareth Griffiths and anyone you can think of. Even Craig Dawson was good enough getting stuck in and things like that. But we're missing that bite, really, in terms of trying to get the ball off them. Up until the past few games, possibly. But since Stockdale's been in charge, we've sort of not really had that as much. Like, obviously, the red cards and yellow cards. You can put a good tackle in. It doesn't mean you have to get a yellow or a red or anything like that. But I think the commitment sort of not going for those sort of tackles, I think that's showing a little bit sometimes.
Devil's advocate then, do you think if you had a bit of the dark arts about you, a bit of S-housery, yes, you'd have a few more reds and yellows and suspensions, but do you think you'd have had a better season overall and be higher up the table had you been a bit dirtier, basically?
Yeah, it's not just a sort of a fouls thing, is it? It's where you set your defensive line, and I think if we just played 10 yards higher up the pitch and we got in people's faces a little bit more, and I think that would help our midfield too, because the way that he plays is like it's a 3-4-3, but the two outside in midfield are the wing backs, so it's basically a central midfield of two, and we signed a guy called Ball who looked like he had a bit more about him in terms of physicality, but it turns out he's like a goal scoring midfielder, so he's been kind of deployed a bit further up the field. So we're still crying out for a little bit of kind of bite in there. We've got like Stephen Dooley's played most of the season in midfield, and the other guy's Liam Kelly, who's about 5'5" maybe, at my height. So he's he doesn't have the physicality in midfield either. So I think it would help our it would help our overall play. If we just move 10 yards higher up the pitch, you got Owen O'Connell who can carry the ball a little bit. He's played in midfield before. He played against Messi, don't you know? Like, you know what I mean? If we just had 10 yards higher up the pitch and we had like a little bit more kind of, I don't know, presence in midfield, and and a little bit more intensity in the press, like from our front three, I think we'd win the ball higher up the pitch. I mean, look at the game between City and Liverpool at the weekend. Like, that's all they're doing all game, just like hounding the players at the back. And these are teams that can play out from the back. Like, look at Edison. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these are teams that can play out from the back, even the goalkeepers. So yeah, it would only take a little bit more pressure, and we get our attacking players on the ball. And to be honest, our attacking players are probably like our best players, like at the moment, as you might expect in the team. Like, so it would just make a lot of sense to just be a little bit more positive. I think he's quite negative as a manager overall, and he's kind of safety first. And I mean, I think he worked with Allardyce in a couple of the clubs that Allardyce managed, and so I think he's taken a lot of his kind of ethos for management from Allardyce, which you guys might be able to resonate with.
Yeah, very direct, very data driven. Allardyce, give him his credit, but very direct. Right, lads. So, bit of a question on Stockdale then. Presumably, say you do stay up, which we hope and presume you will do now. So, Robbie Stockdale, time to grow or time to go in the summer? What do you reckon?
I think he's going to get. I think with the backing and with the noises coming out of the board and the fact that we're probably safe, I think he's going to get until it's bad again. Bad being bottom half. I'd say if he's bottom half by Christmas, maybe he might lose his job. But then again, it's all about money with us. Have we got the money to? I think did he sign a 2-year deal, so he'd have 6 months left, wouldn't he? In December. So would we be able to pull the plug on him at that stage in terms of the compensation and whatnot? I don't know, but yeah, I think most of the fans expect him to go if the next season doesn't. If we're not in the top half, really, I think we're realistic. We should be in the top half of the table. I don't think that's sort of arrogant or over ambitious to say that. I think we've got players that that should be playing in the top half of League Two, if not League One. Owen O'Connell for one, that I mentioned before. Liam Kelly's got the quality to play higher up in the leagues, I would say. Potentially some of the younger players we've got also. So Downing's another one. So I think that we've got the players. I think he's kind of misusing them, and I think if that carries on, one of the things that he said when he was coming in was we're going to play attacking football, and I just don't think we've seen it enough. So I don't know what his idea of attacking football is, but it's not what's happening at the moment. So maybe maybe he will grow. Maybe this summer maybe he'll get some more players in. Maybe he'll get this defensive kind of sort of ball-winning midfielder that we've been crying out for, and will be a different force. Maybe he'll play a completely different way, but I think from what I've seen so far, I just don't see it. He hasn't tried it so far, and what's he waiting for? There's players that he could have played in that defensive role. Jimmy Keohane could do a job as the ball-winning midfielder. I've been saying that all season. He's been injured for some of it, but when he's been fit, he's played right wing back. I think he could do a job as a kind of a ball-winning midfielder, but also kind of tactically, he's still gonna demand a lot of if you're playing a 2-man centre midfield, you're still gonna demand a lot of a ball winner to do everything, like a old school box to box midfielder, like a Roy Keane, a swashbuckling. Those players are few and far between. Do you know what I mean? You don't really get those players these days. So I think the whole formation would have to change, and there's so far there's no indication that he's going to do that. And I think we'd have to have some really, really, really good midfielders to kind of progress up the league with a 2-man midfield.
Yeah, not nearly enough goals, I think, to justify attacking football. Bring back the 5-5 draws the previous season, I say. I think definitely for an entertainment value. Maybe not so much from a heart rate value, but for an entertainment value. Oh, bring them back. How exciting. What do you reckon, Greg?
Oh, I mean, I keep referencing there was a Charlton game. I think it was 4-4, and that was in the lockdown. There were no fans there. Like me and Shell were watching it, and it was I thought I was going to have an heart attack watching it. It was like two really great goals, like one great free kick from Humphreys, and then Quadrabar did a great goal, but then we just conceded another two, and it's just like everything was happening in that game. So I'd rather not have any of that.
It's like
back.
kids football, basically. Were they all just
like
swanning around the ball
football.
like a flock of seagulls, all chasing the ball around like a bunch of 7-year-olds?
It's like five-a-side football. It's nerve-wracking, some of it. But just going back to Stockdale, I'll answer if I can quickly. But me and Danny are in a group chat, the Joe Bunny support group, and somebody's mentioned at the start of the season for us, the next season, is 30th of July. So we've probably got quite a small window there in terms of setting up for next season, because I think last game is the 7th of May. So May, June, July, whatever you want to call it. Usually it's back end of August or whatever it is, isn't it? Something like that. So really he's going to have another short time to be able to set things up for next season. But I hope that's not going to be another excuse. When we get to like October or something where he's going to say, I've had so many weeks to do it again. But I hope that's not going to become a thing. I think he's probably going to, like Danny said, he's probably going to get to like Christmas or something, maybe something like that, because it depends how bad it's going to get, like really. But obviously I know things have happened off field and things like that, and we've sold players have left, like Lund, Humphreys, Rathbone. There's like 6 of the good players that left, and like if you look at it, we probably would have done all right with them 6 that stay, but they were never going to stay, I don't think, really. So yeah, I'd probably say around Christmas, but if he's not picking up at Christmas, he's probably going to get the sack, I reckon. But who knows?
I think we're going to see a lot of EFL managers. They're learning how to build a squad whilst also on the job, really. I think from the looks of it, I think most clubs are going to be in the same boat, whereby they're going to be finishing in May, starting again in July, and you've still got till September to build your squad. So I think that's not just going to be a Stockdale or Rochdale thing. I think that's going to be the vast majority of the managers in the EFL will be learning on the job and building their squad as they go. I don't think we're going to see many sides finished on the first game of the season compared to when they are in September. But it remains to be seen for Rochdale and indeed for anybody else in the EFL. Any further notes to add, lads, on our Rochdale chat? Personally, I would love to see you beat Bristol Rovers just to mess Joey Barton's life up. But aside from that, any further final thoughts?
We probably haven't seen the best of some of these players that he's brought in. Like Charman's not really getting a lot of games. I know, fair enough, he might be picking up minutes now and the odd game, but I think we need to give him a good run of like, if you're going to buy him and you think they're good enough and they're fit enough, you've got to start. We've got to start just playing them really and giving them a good stretch of like a couple of games, 5 games stint, what have you. Like, I don't know why they've kept him Charman out for so long, but I'd just like to see more of Charman, really. So that's pretty much it, really. Yeah.
I think also he's a bit weird. Like he doesn't really fancy any of the youth players that are kind of highly touted and highly thought of. So there's a lad called Ethan Briley, who's he's a baller. He's a really, really good, technically gifted young player, and he's not been given a sniff this year. Like he's not been anywhere near. And then there's like he seems to kind of like I think he panics. I think what I put it down to is it's his first job, and he gets a bit nervous. That the Harrogate kind of formation switch being an example, but also with certain players. If a player maybe messes up for him, he's gone. Like you messed around with the goalkeepers for a little bit. Some managers do, fair enough. But there's been like Cashman went missing for a while, and now he's all of a sudden he's back. Max Taylor is another one. Like he liked him and then he didn't like him. Then he liked him for a bit again, and now he's gone again. Udu, who's like now back on the scene, came off the bench. Matty Dawn, who's kind of come back recently too, was nowhere to be seen for a while. Just like Jim McNulty now and again will drop in, but doesn't really feature that heavily. I mean, his is probably an age thing. Sam Graham, a young player, fancied him at the start. Now he's out on loan. Like, I don't know. He just kind of like, I think he kind of pulls the trigger on players. He just kind of goes, right, you go. I'm not playing you. And then like you don't see him even on the bench. And then the back, okay, you can come back in. You got to get like, you know what I mean? He kind of, I think he panics. I think maybe it's an experience thing, or but you don't really. And I mean, I can't remember that kind of being a thing that other managers do, where they just like he's out of favour, now he's in favour for so long, and then he's back out of favour again. Like, but not even on the bench, like completely disappears, not in the squad for weeks and weeks and weeks. Then in the starting lineup, like he's done that a few times this season. So yeah, bit of a weirdo, I think, as well. I don't know, it doesn't strike me as kind of sort of a people person, but probably I'm reading too much into kind of snippets of interviews and kind of my perception of what he's doing to players, playing okey cokey with certain players. I just think it's a bit odd. Some of his management just strikes me as a bit odd.
So, like, I had a weird thought. He's a bit like a traffic, like Lollipop Man or something. Like, wait, you have to stay there. You're not coming, and then like you're not playing. Sort of, don't know. There's no logic sometimes to what he's doing, and like I'd probably argue. I don't think. Yeah, pretty much.
Does he know Jackie Chan
from Phoenix Nights? He might know Jackie Chan.
He's got some paint for him.
But it's like there's probably an argument that he probably doesn't know his best 11 still. Probably. Like, if you said to him, like, everyone's fit, who you're playing, I think it'd take him a bit to figure out his best 11. Like, to this day, like, so I think that's something that probably doesn't get mentioned enough. Because it's probably true if Danny's saying, like, players are coming in and out for no particular reason, when we think, why aren't we chancing Cashman coming on and things like that? Because he's been, he's shown a glimmer of what he can do against Tranmere at home and things like that. We know what the players can do. So there's no real like logic to why they're in and out like the okey cokey sometimes. But yeah, I don't think he knows his best 11. So yeah.
I personally like to see a lot more of Charman, certainly right up front. So they could say that there's a Charman playing number 9. There's a David Bowie song in there somewhere. And also you could point to him and go, that's Charman there. Pokemon.
Like Charman. Yeah, Charman. Right, okay.
Anyway,
just about got it then, Jimmy.
That note. Wow. Niche League 2
level
references.
We've got to.
Innit? Please subscribe. Right, Matt. On the previous pod, I said I don't see where the next win's coming from. We've had 2 whole wins. I mean, we've had about 5 defeats, I think, but we've had 2 whole wins.
I can't quite believe it. I don't know what to do with myself.
Are we staying up? Are we going to win the league next year? I'm not sure which league. We're going to win it, though.
Well, just saying Leicester finished 17th and won the league the next year. Stranger things have happened.
I think Leicester finished 14th.
Okay, Leicester finished near the bottom of the table and won the league next season. Give me it. All right, it's near enough. Yeah, it's kind of strange. I mean, I can't remember the last game before we did the last pod. Was it? So we haven't covered the Newcastle game because that's a podcast in itself. It was hilarious.
I think that'll be a retrospective at the end of the season, whether we stay up or go down. I think the Newcastle game, not least the man chaining himself with a plastic cable tied to the goalpost, and our Amazon stream going down just as Alan got sent off. There's so many things we can talk about that. Well, I think we'll leave that for another pod, in fairness, because we've only got so long. Let's scooch forward then to the Man United result, which even in a week when we win, we still managed to lose. Burnley was Burnley. He at half time switched it off, 2-1 up, thinking, still lose. We were right. Matt, we did what everyone does and beat Man United. Thoughts?
We did. It was a scrappy game of football. It was a proper Everton at home, up against it, knowing they had to get a result. And fair play to them, they battled for it, and they deserved the win. I always love seeing Anthony Gordon score. The guy's just... the fact that he is carrying our season is kind of sad, but at the same time, for a local lad to come in and to be the major focal point in the season is exceptional for him. And he's a great footballer, and he got a bit of luck with the goal, but we've kind of been due a bit of luck for certain aspects of some of the football recently. The City game in particular sums that one up. But it was a good result. It means nothing unless you can carry it on, as the Burnley game has proven. We've got Leicester a week tomorrow, I think it is. And we win that, and the results go away at the weekend. If Burnley lose, I can't remember if they're playing at the weekend. You're 7 points clear, and that's a huge, huge gap that even Everton would, struggle to mess up. We could either way, but it puts you in such a strong position compared to where we were, 3 weeks ago.
Well, I think it shows with Leeds, for example, and maybe argue Brentford as well, who've still got to play. A couple of wins fire you right away, even though positionally they're not that far above us. Points-wise, they are, as Roy Hodgson pointed out, in a different sort of ballpark now. To the side, the bottom four, I'd argue. And Anthony Gordon, I think it's always great to see a player scoring for Everton that if he wasn't playing for Everton would be stumbling at the hot walk at 3 o'clock in the morning. Fantastic, to see a local lad do what he does. That is actually our second win in the last 4 home league games against Man United, which shows that we've actually got a half-decent record, and since 2019 we've had 4 draws in our 8 games in all home and away all competitions. So our record against United, weirdly, this might be United.
It's actually pretty good.
It's not bad, is it? United are probably not the best ever at the moment, but when you factor in both clubs basically are massive overspending basket cases, we are basically microcosms of one another, to the point where if we were a Man United podcast, we could say the exact same as we do about Everton. It's
just be the Men in Red. We might as well do the Men in Red podcast and just literally copy it over and then just put it out there as a Man U podcast.
I would much rather
there's a lot of
Man United
similarities.
Podcast, but there you go on.
Yeah, a lot of similarities between the two squads. That game epitomised everything that Everton should be, in the fact that we're not going to be the most technically gifted side in the world. It's not going to be pretty football, but it will be a battle in results, and it epitomised everything that's kind of wrong with United, which is they're just a poor side. I don't feel for United fans, because they've had their fair share of success, obviously, over the last 25, 30 years. But to see a side drop kind of so dramatically, there was an amazing stat I read about the last 4-0 game they beat them, which was 2018, I think it was. We beat them at Goodison, I think it was 4-0. Ole Solskjaer after the game came out and said, I think he said something along the lines of, "I will be successful here, but some of these players, they won't be here next season." And I think there was 8 out of the 11 started at the weekend were played in that game, which, if anything, epitomises how bad Man U have been in terms of recruitment, in terms of general squad quality. That the likes of Lindelofs, the Matic, the Fred, those players still get a game because they just can't buy and just won't improve. And the rumours today that Ten Hag's been all but approved or been announced as coming to the squad, comes to the team. Whether that'll improve or not goes to see. I think they're just in the period that Liverpool were in for so many years. Just we had peaks and troughs of football, and they're definitely in their trough at the moment. But no, I was pleased. It was a stressful. I didn't watch it, but kind of knowing we were 1-0 up and knowing that at any point they've got Ronaldo, even at 37, which we will get onto in a second. Ronaldo, you naughty little boy, was stressful. Was stressful, but you know what? If anything's going to keep us up, it's going to be that home form. It's going to be we've got Leeds at home, we've got Brentford at home. I can't remember if we got Leicester's of another
Palace,
one.
not Leeds.
Palace, another one. No, sorry, Palace, not Leeds. Ignore me. But there's home games there
Chelsea,
which are definitely winnable. Chelsea again, they're currently winning in Madrid 1-0. But if their mind is going onto the top 4 race, or if it's on the Champions League stuff, you don't know. Good as anything can happen. Away from home, don't see us getting a point. The derby is in 2 weeks. It's going to be hilarious.
The only thing keeping us away from home is Viagra, let's be honest.
That's pretty spot on. The Burnley game was frustrating for so many reasons. The main reason it was frustrating is in that second half, we had chances. We hit the post twice. And you just think, stick some of those chances away, and you're 3-4-1 up, and the game is yours to win. And that, let's say if results had also gone away at the weekend, 7 points clear in a week, that's a huge, huge turnaround. But that's Everton for you. It's going to go down to, I reckon, the second to last, if not the last game of the season. And hopefully we do enough to stay up, but I'll wait and see at the moment with Everton. Who knows?
So the minor point here is that Everton are Jekyll and Hyde and actually won a game. The biggest talking point, though, however, and lads, you can come in on this one, is autograph hunters of the world hold up your big sign, wanting shirts and what have you. If you want to thank Cristiano Ronaldo, don't go to Carrington. Go to the nearest car phone warehouse near you. He is more likely to be there. Thoughts on whatever the hell that was at the end of the game on Saturday? I was like, what? Why? And yeah, Ronaldo broke some kid's phone.
I've seen another video of that, but I don't know if it's fake or not. I need to send somebody, well, all of you, the video on Twitter of the kid like shouting at Ronaldo like, you fucking shit and things like that. But I don't know if it's real because it's from a different perspective. The camera's like further to the left. It's like a camera phone, and this kid who's got the phone is like hurling abuse at him. But I don't know if it's real. I'll send you.
Sounds like an Everton
But
fan.
I mean,
it's a strange situation because even if the kid is shouting at all sorts, Ronaldo knows better. He's not daft. The guys are, one of the best footballers in the world, and he knows that anything he does is filmed by cameras, filmed by phones, whatever else. Yeah, there might have been a bit of abuse knocking about, but he's not daft. But he's frustrated because he's gone back to Man U to try and get him to league titles, try and get him to even just the top 4. And they're stuck in, what are they, 6th or 7th? I can't remember what they are, in a pretty floundering side that he can't do anything to affect it. The side around him is that bad that he can't. He's tried as much to drag him out of the Champions League group stages, and that's as far as they've really got so far. They are 7th. I thought they were 7th.
We could have Cristiano Ronaldo in the Europa Conference League next year, which would be...
Which I have to see. I mean, it's a trophy he hasn't won.
It's the final one of his collection. Well, you should be buzzing for it.
Go out on a high note. I mean, if you read some of the stuff, the mum of this kid is absolutely rinsing him, and I find it hilarious. The funniest bit is he put a post up the knee apologising to the kid.
Is she a compo face Karen?
Oh, big time!
Yeah,
absolutely compo face Karen. I'm all
so many scouts Mars are compo face Karen.
Go for
really.
it!
Yeah,
kids getting new iPhones, new MacBooks out of it. He's getting all sorts. The funniest bit is he goes, I want to invite the guy to a game at Old Trafford, and I thought the poor kid's been through enough. You can't come to Old Trafford to watch Man U. He's already had his phone broken. But yeah, she's saying that he feels abused and he's been a bruised hand, and you're like, he didn't hit him that hard. But I get your point. I mean, take it.
To be
rinse
fair,
it for what you can.
To be fair, though, Matt, which Evertonian worth their salt would get a free ticket to Old Trafford to watch Man United?
I've no idea. No one in their right mind would do that. I would never do that. I did not go to the Aston Villa Cup tie. I don't know what you're insinuating. It was a free ticket. Leave me alone. You go. Don't even tell me you wouldn't go for a free ticket.
Face Karen.
I've got a bit of a question for you. Has there got to be some sort of credit to Frank Lampard for this victory, or he's been obviously in a bit of a sticky bit of stress, bottom 4, what have you, relegation battle. Is there anything to Lampard there, do you reckon?
See what we did
what
there.
I will
Sticky,
say,
toffees, nice one. Carry on.
Nice. What I will say, it's a great response because Sean Dyche in the week apparently came out and said at half time that Everton doesn't know how to win a game of football. And there's two ways you can take that.
At least we think we know that's what he said, because no one can actually understand Sean Dyche, so I mean, he could have said anything.
It was a bit grisly, but either way. It was a good response. He set us up pretty well. I never thought I would say this, but Fabian Delph was our best player, which was beyond belief. And I will have to say as well, Alex Iwobi under Lampard is a different player entirely. That guy ran his socks off in that game. And that is down to the likes of Frank Lampard. What I like about Lampard is he's kind of saying the right things. It's which I know is very easy to do, but he's saying things, for example, I don't care if the football's not pretty at the moment. It's just about getting what you can. And then if we stay up, then it gives him a summer to really stamp his authority on the side, however well that goes. There's a lot of work to do. This is, not even the start, really. We haven't really started changing the squad. There's a lot to do, but he's done the right thing so far. Just the away from home thing has got to change, but that I think is more down to the players. I don't think it's really necessarily on him. I think he set us up pretty well away from home. So when the adversity is against them, they crumble. The Burnley game is a prime example of that. When that second goal went in for Burnley on Wednesday, I knew they were going to go win that game. There was no way that Everton team is strong enough to take that and go on and win a game after being, pegged back. But who knows? We'll wait and see. But yeah, Lampard, I think, deserves a lot of credit for what he's done in the past few weeks.
So basically, what we need if we stay up.
I haven't seen Everton under Lampard apart from that United game. Is kind of like, and I thought they were really, really good out of possession. Sort of how Lampard Chelsea were playing when he first got there. Obviously that tailed off towards the end, but I thought that like there was one thing, they had Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham, and they were so good at it without the ball, getting a lot of plaudits. Is that how they've been playing under him? Because he wouldn't strike me as kind of the manager, like for a relegation battle, which you're obviously in. He's kind of not that sort of attritional kind of manager. So, and he's, if we're talking about style of play before, when we're talking about Rochdale, like he's got to kind of implement a whole style of play whilst also getting the wins that you might not get when you're in that transition phase, when you're moving from one style of play to another. So, that pressing style is gonna beat Man United, because most styles do beat Man United. But I mean, it's kind of it like that. What Matt was touching on there, like it's kind of how far he goes in implementing the work that he probably wants to do with the whole squad. I think he alluded to himself, or does he just kind of like try and get in people's faces, and kind of do what he can in terms of the style of play for the rest of the season? So how have they been, like, is that sort of how they've been playing since he came in, or is that kind of a much improved performance in terms of kind of the work rate and the aggression and the intensity?
Yeah, I think the difference off the ball from the midfield forward, if you look for likes of Iwobi, arguably Decore, Richarlison, we've got a lot of players, unfortunately, that aren't battle hardened for a relegation battle, because they weren't bought for a relegation battle, they weren't developed for a relegation battle, they were developed to challenge for Europe. But because we are where we are, undeniably, they've had to adapt mentally to that as well. And with Rafa, he was dealt with the hand he was dealt with some of the players and the finances, but the effort off the ball wasn't the same. The defence is still the defence. The defence is an absolute shit show. No matter, you could have Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, and Thomas Tuchel in charge of our back 4, 3, 5, whatever, and it'd still be an absolute disaster. But I think from the midfield forward, off the ball, the work rate has definitely improved. And I do think as well, I think Lampard's won 5 to 7 good games of Goodison, which is a very sort of, I can't think of the word now, but sort of a slightly deceptive stat, because obviously we've played the likes of Bournemouth Wood at home. So, but I think having the fans there does give those players a boost to work harder off the ball, whereas you saw in away games like West Ham, like Burnley, where if they're a yard or two off the opposing midfield, we get overrun, and then all of a sudden, all you got to do is get past John Joe Kenny, which, to be fair, I think I could do, hungover with one broken foot, and you're bound to score. So it's basically, we need to keep the ball away from the defence, because they can't defend. I know it sounds simplistic, but truthfully, they are a disaster. I do think the actual attritional nature of the midfield has improved massively, certainly at Goodison, since Lampard's come in.
The difference there as well is, Delph is a good example of that kind of player. It feels like he hasn't played for God knows how long, but he came in and did exactly what you want that midfield to do. It's where they won the game on the weekend. And it's where they've lost a lot of games as well. It's the midfield's just been overrun. He's tried to play 3 at the back. We don't suit 3 at the back, especially when you've got 3 centre halves who have all got a mistake in them at some point. Limit the amounts of centre backs you can have to just 2 at the very least. But saying that, Michael Caine and Ben Godfrey were brilliant on Saturday, and you've got to give credit where credit's due. And it can't be easy to be under that amount of pressure and to basically be worried every time you go onto a football pitch, you're going to make a big mistake. And we've had, Godfrey against Burnley made a mistake. Michael Caine has had countless, it feels like, this season. Why in January they didn't look to get themselves an experienced centre half, I will never know. Not someone who has to be, big money, could just been on loan. Someone who could just go into that back four and just calm the entire thing down and just go, right, guys, we're fine, it's all good.
Craig Dawson.
Craig Dawson, prime example. Could be challenging for top 6 if Craig Dawson could be in January. But yeah, it's been a definite increase in the intensity. Under Benitez, it was slow, turgid football, but that's how he chose to set up. That's very much his style of play. But that never really was going to last at Goodison, just because it was bloody boring. Even when you won, it wasn't many times to be exact. But even when we did, it wasn't particularly brilliant football. You didn't walk out going, I'm really excited for the season. Even the early games we won at the start of the season, they were all under caveats of, we won, but there was some issues that really need ironing out. And Benitez, we've just talked about this before, he was never going to last. And Lampard, the most important thing he's done is got the fans on side, which any manager for Everton has to do. The minute you lose those fans, you are gone out of a job.
Right then, gents, unless there's any more comments on that, I think that will wrap up today's episode of the Men in Blue podcast. Any further comments on Rochdale or Everton as of recently at all before we go?
I've got one for you. Before the Euros last year, we were on about, should we take Craig Dawson? Would you take him to the World Cup?
No.
Oh, why not, Matt? Why not?
Because there were so many better centre halves who played for England.
Yeah, I know.
Are we talking about as a mascot or
like
Beckham?
Just take him on the bus. You don't have to play him. It's like...
You can be the bus driver. No, to be fair, he's got a good claim. But then I think the way Southgate wants to play, and with he's just missed the cut. I think now in terms of where he is in his career in that. He may well end up in the squad for the World Cup yet. We don't know, but. I think there's younger and there's more established English centre halves, and also Harry Maguire coming through, or just somehow blagging their way into the squad. But I would take Dawson.
Harry Maguire.
Hey,
by the way,
Harry
my
Maguire
last point about the Everton game.
Match winner.
I'm going to say, did anyone see Harry Maguire claiming for a handball against his own player?
Yes.
Beautiful. Anything that sums up Harry Maguire's season to that moment.
Yeah, I was confused watching it, trying to figure out what he was claiming, and then I realised, like, what I was watching, if you get me. It's like
beautiful.
What's he claiming? Stuff. I was confused watching it. It's like, oh, yeah, weird.
Right, and on that note, I think there'll be no more claiming for any more of our own handballs. That doesn't make any sense. Danny, thank you so much for joining us today, mate, and we appreciate your 3 hours ahead. So quick question, what's it like in the future, and what are the results for tonight so we can put bets on?
We both stay up, mate, so all good, yeah, so you can relax.
We learn that in the next 3 hours, fantastic. The pod's going to be obsolete in no time.
I was going to say, like, how far in the future is Danny? I'd like to, Back to the Future or something here. What's going on?
Man.
Yeah. Great Scott, Danny. Great Scott.
what the fixture's like for next season, Danny? What have we got next?
Awful. We lose them all.
Ah, shit.
To be fair, on that note, I did see somebody on the League One banter page, which somehow I'm still a member of, predict their club's fixtures for next season. It's like, mate, 1, you've got too much time in your hands. 2, how do you know who's going up and going down? So somebody clearly has got nothing better to do than predict his own team's fixtures. All 46 of them.
I mean, the only person who could get that right is like Doctor Strange in Marvel when he can predict every outcome and things like that. So, yeah.
Maybe he's got a sports almanac. Who knows? Going up to the year 2050.
Great Scott.
Anyway, on that most wonderful note, thank you very much, Danny, for joining us. Any socials you want to plug for yourself? Anywhere we can find you on the social medias?
You don't want to hear what I'm saying. You've had enough of me. But
oh, we do.
Twitter @DanJRich.
Nice one, mate. And thank you, Greg and Matt, for your contributions today. They are always as greatly appreciated. And we will see you for episode 22 very, very shortly. Bye for now.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.